The hard truth about smartphone addiction and how to cure it. Watch this video to understand cell phone and internet addiction, to balance your life online and offline, and to get easy tips on breaking free from the impulse. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing fantastic and wonderful. I'm doing fantastic on my end too. And if you're doing as impeccable as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Today I want to talk to you about the hard truth about smartphone addiction and how to definitely cure it. Now, let's get a definition of smartphone addiction. Now, you know, the addiction can encompass a variety of impulse control problems. For example, you have information overload, right? So you have to constantly surf the web, watch videos, you have to play games, you have to check the news feeds, and all of these things lead to lower productivity at work or school. And what's even worse, that impulse can isolate you for hours at a time, right? Have you realized sometimes you go to parties and people are sitting on the couch and everybody is just focused on his or her cell phone and there's no conversation going on, right? So the compulsive of the internet and smartphone apps can cause you to neglect people around you. It can cause you to neglect other aspects of your life. I'm talking about real world relationships. I'm talking about hobbies. I'm talking about volunteering. I'm talking about social pursuits, right? Now, another way you can see the addiction is people interested in virtual relationships, right? So you have some kind of addiction to social networking, dating apps, texting, messaging. People are constantly on Facebook. People are constantly on YouTube. People are constantly on Tinder, just swiping right, swiping left, right? So all of this conundrum is leading to a point where people are more interested in having virtual online friends, and those are more important than real life relationships, right? So someone is somewhere in Asia, you know, having an online friend in Chicago. They've never met, but the relationship seems to be very strong. So you have to understand that if you use dating apps compulsively, you might be in a position where you are focusing to short-term hookups instead of developing long-term relationships, which should be the most important thing for you at this moment, right? Another thing that's very important here is that, especially in teens, but I think it's more a general issue, not just for teens. It's not just an issue affecting teens or men for that matter, because women also are affected. It's cyber porn addiction. You know, people really, compulsively using the internet to surf adult sites, doing nude swapping, sexting, or adult messaging services, all of which can affect negatively on your real life intimate relationships and overall emotional health. This is very important. It has been demonstrated that, teenagers and adults who are watching hours and hours of online porn and cybersex were more addicted and they couldn't find the sex drive in their real life, right? And the thing is that the internet just makes it very accessible, very convenient, and very anonymous, right? So those three things are the ACA, what I call the ACA: very accessible, very convenient, and very anonymous. So people can spend hours upon hours upon hours engaging in fantasies impossible in real life, right? So you also have a way you see smartphone addiction is through online cravings, right? You're having, people spending hours on sites such as Amazon, eBay. They're not there as sellers. They're just there as, prospective clients, just surfing endlessly, right? Doing online shopping, stock trading, gambling, gaming, live video, playing with other people. All of this stuff, again, there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm trying to say here is when it becomes addictive, then there might be a problem here. Now, what are the causes and effect of smartphone and internet addiction? Now, when you have this kind of situation, people are having a lot of issues. The causes might be multiple. It could be stress. It could be loneliness, right? Depression, anxiety. If people are lonely, it's just it's just very easy to go on the internet and just feel free, right? If somebody is into drugs and banned substances such as narcotics, this could also trigger the release, right? The release of the brain chemical dopamine and alter their mood, so they feel happy, they feel powerful, right? They feel empowered, if you think about it. So smartphone or internet addiction can also negatively impact your life through several things. Let me just list a few of them here. Your sleep might be disturbed. You might have a higher level of loneliness and depression. You might feel anxious, more anxious. There could be an increase of stress in your life, right? Smartphone or internet addiction can also exacerbate attention deficit disorder. So ADD is really a big thing right now. Research has shown that. And also diminish your ability to concentrate and think deeply, but most importantly, creatively, right? Because you have access to that, to the internet and the phone. The persistent buzz, the persistent peep, the persistent ping of your smartphone can distract you from important tasks, right? It can slow your work. It can interrupt those quiet moments that are so crucial to creativity and problem solving, right? So you're never alone in your thought. You're constantly online and you're constantly connected. All right. So this is basically the causes and effects of smartphone and internet addiction. I'll be right back right after this. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are still continuing our conversation around the hard truth about smartphone addiction. If you like the content so far and you think we are adding value to your life, consider subscribing to our channel and turning on the notification bell so you are aware of new shows and you appreciate we can share your comments on the show. We can acknowledge you. Comment below, share, and like. Now, what are the signs and symptoms of smartphone and internet addiction? The thing here is that the signs and symptoms of addiction are subtle, sometimes open. For instance, if you cannot track the specific amount of time you spend on your phone, or the frequency you check for updates, or the number of messages you send or receive, those things indicates that you have an addiction. So the warning sign, the red flags of smartphone or internet overuse include something like, you have a fear of missing out, what they call FOMO. So you feel like, if you're not connected, something is going on and you're not part of it, right? You are isolated from your family and friends. You have trouble completing tasks at work or home, right? You're constantly concealing your smartphone use, or you feel like anxious or panic attack if you leave your smartphone at home, right? You constantly have to have it, right? And here are some withdrawal symptoms from smartphone addiction. Now, the thing is that if you feel any one of those signs, you are addicted. All right. So restlessness. Let's say your phone is not next to you, so you feel restless. Anger or irritability. So you are irritable if your phone is not around. You have difficulty concentrating. You can't sleep because you haven't seen your phone. You crave access to your phone or other device. So those things, all this collection of items shows that you are basically addicted, and those are withdrawal symptoms. Now, here are some self-help tips for smartphone addictions. You have to understand, the first step is to acknowledge that you have a problem, that you are addicted. Maybe the word addiction is a little too harsh because people associate it with narcotics or other drugs. So you might say you have an impulse. So you need to recognize the triggers that make you reach for your phone, right? And one thing you have to understand also is that there is a big distinction between interacting in person and online. Those things are different, right? Human beings are social creatures. So you need to meet people socially, face to face, respond to body language, make eye contact, this kind of stuff, right? All of which can help you put the brakes on stress because you're meeting people. You have to build your coping skills. It's very important. How do you cope with internet and smartphone addiction? right? The thing here is that you have to ask yourself, is there any underlying problem that may support your compulsive behavior, right? Did you have problems with banned substances in the past, right? Is anything about your phone that reminds you of how you used to drink or how you used to be with people who exhibited that behavior, right? Another way to get away from smartphone addiction is to solidify your support network. Because sometimes it can be very complicated to reach goals by yourself. So join a club. Try reaching out to colleagues at work. Join a book club. Enroll in a dance club. Volunteer for a good cause. The good thing is you'll be able to interact with people like you, let relationships develop naturally, and form friendships. And all of which will help you, will optimize your life and strengthen your health, right? One thing you can do also in terms of modifying your smartphone use is by setting goals for when you can use your phone. You can put time limits. The same way people use the same thing people have with food. Just set a time limit for smartphone use. And never bring your phone or tablet to bed, right? This is very important. You got to leave certain parts of the house, certain parts of your life as sanctuaries of tranquility, sanctuaries of quietness, right? And the thing is that remove, if you can, social media apps from your phone, right? You might be willing to leave Facebook. Actually, you can't even delete Facebook anyway, and Twitter, because those come preloaded with all Android phones. That's what I gather. But you can basically limit that. So if you just put your phone constantly on the airline mode, that helps you focus on other things, right? Now, limit the checks. You don't have to check your phone every few minutes. No. There's nothing going on. You're not missing anything. There's no fear of missing out. Nothing is happening. The world is continuing as it should. All right? I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing wonderful, and we are continuing here about the smartphone addiction and how to cure it. So now let's talk about treatment. How do you treat smartphone and internet addiction? The thing here is that there are now, thankfully, specialist treatment centers that offer quote-unquote digital detox program to help you disconnect from digital media. All right, they do in the individual and group therapy. This can also help you boost your ability to get away from the smartphone and internet addiction, right? People have talked about marriage or couples counseling if the relationship has been strained because of excessive use of internet pornography or online affairs, for instance. You can get group support. There is one group called Internet Tech Addiction Anonymous, ITAA, and another one called Online Gamers Anonymous. They offer online support and face-to-face meetings to help you cut excessive technology use. Right, the thing here is that even though the problem originated online, you would need real-life, offline people to benefit fully from any addiction support group. You can't do it online, right? It's like, somebody who is a drug addict and they need to be healed by consuming more drugs, right? So if your problem is online addiction, you got to get offline rather, to be able to treat that. Okay. Now, how do you help actually, there was another thing that I wanted to say. There's also some kind of treatment called cognitive behavioral therapy. And this actually provides step-by-step ways to prevent and stop compulsive behaviors. And what it also does is that it changes your perception about your phone and the internet. So this therapy can help you learn healthier ways of coping with uncomfortable emotions, right? I'm talking about fear, anger, depression, stress, anxiety, all of which may be fueling your smartphone use. Now, how do you help a teen or a child struggling with smartphone addiction? All you can do, and now I'm talking to adults here, try to be a good role model, right? Because we've seen this on TV. It doesn't work. When a parent is trying to drag a child or teen away from a smartphone or tablet, they know it's very challenging. It's very difficult to separate kids from social media, videos, online games, or messaging apps, right? Because those youngsters, they're not mature enough to cut their smartphone use on their own, right? So the last thing you want to do is confiscate the device, because this could backfire, right? And you don't want the kid to go into withdrawal symptoms. And you don't want to create more anxiety in his or her life, right? So there are other ways to bring your child to a space where he or she understands that a phone is just a phone. It's just a tool to communicate. So trying to be a good role model. Don't do stuff that you're prohibiting your child from doing, right? Don't use the phone yourself and tell him or her, listen, don't do this. No. You can also use apps to monitor and limit your child's smartphone use. Right now, luckily, there are many apps on the market. You just need to go to Google Play Store or Apple Store, and basically find out what's available there in terms of apps, so you can monitor you can even limit your child's smartphone use. One thing you can do also is that you can also create something called phone-free zones inside the house. So you are actually saying, like, in the bedroom there's no phone allowed, in the living room there's no problem, in the kitchen there's no problem, in the bathroom no. So you have phone-free zones and phone-restricted zones, right? Trying to make it funny, trying to make it fun and funny, right? You want to also stimulate your teen or child to get engaged in other social activities and other interests, right? I'm talking about team sports, after schools activities, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Spend time as a family unplugged, right? So you want to talk to your child also about all the underlying issues. Why are you preventing them from from going online? Explain the reasons, right? All the abuse, all the online bullying, the cyber sex risk, right? All this stuff, you need to have a clear conversation with the child. Of course, the conversation has to be age appropriate, right? You have to see basically how old your kid is to have that conversation. All right. Now, the thing you have to understand here is that these things take time. The addiction to smartphone and internet addiction. The addiction to smartphone and internet didn't start overnight. It took weeks, if not months. So don't expect it to go away automatically. This will take some time, but you got to start. All right. I will be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're still here talking about how to, the hard truth about smartphone addiction and how to cure it. And in this show, I spoke about 6 things. I spoke about a definition of smartphone addiction, the causes and effects, the signs and symptoms. I gave some self-help tips. I also talked about treatment for smartphone and internet addiction. And lastly, I talked about how to help a child or teen struggling with smartphone addiction, right? Now, one thing I also want to say here before I wrap this up is this is the call to action. If you've been listening to this and you appreciate the content quality, if you really want to break your phone addiction fast so you can focus on your life, do this. Delete the addictive apps off your phone. Do it right now. You want to use, there's an app called Moment. There are other apps. You can use any app to monitor your usage patterns. There are a lot of apps out there that allow you to monitor your usage patterns. Put your phone on grayscale so you aren't as enchanted by the colorful graphics. And the last thing you want to do is you can put your phone on Do Not Disturb or airplane mode to silence incoming distractions. All right? I will talk to you another time, and until then, remember, stay marvelous.